Efficiency.
Welcome, everybody. This is Wade with Efficiency. Hey, just wanted to cover a concept. This is our second podcast number 2. The topic is advice. So we wanted to cover advice. So as far as that, listening to this for advice, I'm going to give you this disclaimer. If you're listening to this podcast, you're looking for advice. You might not know exactly what you're looking for, but one thing we'll talk about is giving advice, when to give it, when not to give it, and some more concepts within that. So by listening to this, I'm going to give you some advice. So if you're not open and willing to listen to it, that's okay. Shut this podcast off right now. It's your choice whether you use the advice that I give you, but I am going to give you advice. So that's the warning I wanted to give you guys before we jumped in and got started. I'm going to start out with a little story based on just some interaction on Facebook. So social media, great platform to do a lot of different things. So the other day, I'm just trying to spark some interest, get just a good conversation going with everybody out there in the Facebook world, and really just see what kind of experience people have had, how they've handled it, and kind of the outcomes from that. But instead, I got a list of, I'm going through the comments right now, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 13 comments. So I'll give you guys the status. I said, have you ever been scared that your goals are too big? How did you overcome that fear? So I didn't say, hey guys, I'm terrified. I got these big goals and I'm scared of them. Can you give me some advice? Hey guys, I'm looking for advice on, hey, I'm in this situation. Can you tell me what to do? That was not my intentions by this post. My intentions were exactly as the status said. Have you ever been scared that your goals are too big? How did you overcome that fear? So I wanted to keep this very directed. This is the fun thing about this, guys, is there's so many people out there with big hearts. They care so much that they wanted to share just some advice for what I could do. Again, this is where I'm giving me some motivation for just to make this podcast. So as far as that, there's some great advice in these comments. If you're friends with me on Facebook, check out this post from the other day back, so it was yesterday. Let's see, so that would have been June 7th, so Thursday, June 7th. Check out some of those comments. I think there's a lot of great advice in there if you guys are looking for advice, if you've ever been in this situation. But again, my goal was to spark some conversation of what other people have done. Obviously, I have some big goals. Obviously, I have been scared. Obviously, I am still overcoming some of those fears. But what I was looking for was not advice, but something a little bit more. I wanted to see their experience, what their insights were. And that's a lot of this. Again, I can't blame anybody for having a big heart and wanting to share. And again, advice comes from being somewhere. They have all been somewhere before, and they're simply sharing that. So intentions versus actions, that's definitely, I can't question that their intentions were good. So as far as that, always be open to people saying no to you. So the first advice I would give is making sure somebody is open for your advice. In this case, obviously, I am not necessarily open for the advice that was given. Definitely will take it with a grain of salt. If I'm following everybody and everything that they say, my life could look a lot different, good or bad. So as far as that, always make sure people are open before we give advice. A lot of people are very quick to give their opinion, very quick to say, hey, I've done this, you should do this. That's not what most people are looking for. Most people are looking for a listening ear. If you ask somebody, hey, would you like advice or would you like me just to listen to you? Most people would choose just being listened to. The reason for that is because people want to be heard. It's one of the most innate human nature needs or wants is to be heard and to be understood, not to get rattled off with a 2-paragraph, 2-sentence, whatever it looks like, just rambling of advice. Again, people aren't stupid. People are very smart and can figure out their own problems. So as far as that, that's one of the main topics I wanted to cover in this podcast is when to give advice. Be open to asking first if somebody wants to give advice, because more than likely they just need a listening ear. They need to be heard. They need a mirror to reflect back what they're saying rather than giving specific advice. You should do this, you should do that. So to be understood is more powerful than hearing great advice. If you think about that, think of a time that, maybe somebody gave you advice and really you were just looking for somebody to hear you, for somebody to understand the situation you've been in. So that's one thing that I do as a life coach. There's life coaches out there. If they're a true certified life coach, their job is to listen. They're not there to give advice. A therapist or a counselor, they're going to give you advice. A mentor, a consultant, they're all there to give advice. But that's a big reason that life coaches are in high demand right now is they have faith in their clients to figure out their own problems. They don't have to go out and tell you what to do, because again, if I'm a life coach and I'm giving you advice, you're going to be an expert in your life. I'm not going to see what goes behind closed doors. I'm not going to see all the nitty-gritty. Only whatever you as a client would share with me. That's the only picture I can see of your life. You get that full picture of your life, but sometimes we get so narrow-focused that we need a mirror. We need a mirror to reflect back and see what's going on in our life. Again, that's by guided questions. If I'm saying, hey, I'm going to be a mirror for you, let me just ask you a couple quick questions about your life, rather than say, oh, well, it sounds like you need to do this, this, and this. You're doing this wrong. You're doing this good, but this needs to change. Nope, I'm simply just going to ask questions if I'm a life coach and be a mirror to reflect back. Here's where you're at. Here's where you don't want to be. Here's where you do want to be. I'll let you come up with a plan to get there. So without quick advice-giving friends, certified life coaches like myself wouldn't exist. The reason this happens is because people are afraid of rejection. People would rather give advice than hear the word, no, I don't want to be given advice right now. People are afraid that if they ask, hey, do you want advice, they're going to get rejected. And another one of those human needs is acceptance. We want to be accepted by our peers, by society to some degree, some more so than others, and whatever that looks like, that's okay. But most people are afraid of rejection by saying, hey, can I just be a listening ear? Hey, can I give you advice? One's going to get rejected more than the other. I'll let you figure that out if you haven't already. So giving unwarranted advice, that's what we're talking about today on this podcast. Although intentions can be good, sometimes the outcomes can be bad. My question to you as listeners is, why don't we reflect on a time that, you gave somebody advice and that person didn't take it. Maybe you got mad because they didn't take your advice. It could have been the best advice in the world, but again, if somebody's not willing and open to your advice, you're probably wasting your breath. So a big concept that you'll hear if you listen to me or check out anything on our website at efficiencybook.com, the concept that I talk about is, I am the cause of all of my problems. So this might sound harsh, but let me explain. By taking ownership and being accountable for your life, for your success or failure, it's your fault. Most people miss the first part of that. If you take responsibility for yourself, your success is your fault. If you're one of the many who only heard failure is your fault, that's okay. It's human nature. It's a survival instinct to hear the negative, the scary, the worst case scenario. To continue to survive, we have to focus on those negatives, at least in one time in our human course, human nature, if you want to call it evolution. So my clients learn reality. They think and hear in both positive and negative terms. They're not just going to focus on, well, I'm only successful or I'm only a failure. No, you're going to see a clear picture of, here's reality. Going along with that, a lot of people think positive energy, positive this, positive that, it's going to help motivate you. But then a lot of people almost get turned off by the concept of negative. Oh, that guy has negative energy. That guy had negative advice. If we're talking about positive and negative, those are both learned traits. Those are both learned words. For some person, that might be a very positive experience. But for another person experiencing the same thing, it might be a very negative experience. So it's all about perception. So we can talk about perception in one of our later episodes, one of our next podcasts, but as far as that, energy is energy. Energy can be used to motivate us. It can be used to help us move towards our goals. So the human body, it's not like a car. A car can be either a diesel or gasoline car. These days, obviously, there's more options, but the human body is more of a hybrid. Energy is energy. We can harness both positive and negative energy to fuel and motivate us to achieve. So after all, positive and negative energy are both relative. Again, somebody might see something differently than another person. So keep that in mind when you're looking at how you're motivated and how all this relates back to you. So going back to the quote, I am the cause to all of my problems. There's a second part of that mantra or that theme that my clients learn. I'm the cause of all of my problems, therefore I am the solution to all of my problems. This can be a touchy subject since ego gets involved. Success and power can be very scary because that means we have the ability to cause damage or even provide $1 million solution, and most people shove that under the rug. It's scary. It is scary. But perception, it's all about the perception. If we're talking about the force of average is going to be strong if you realize that you have the power and all your problems can be solved by yourself. So if you guys aren't familiar with the force of average, Google it. Rand Stewman, he's a modern day legend in the making. He'll explain that concept a little bit more, the force of average. So another reason why people don't like hearing that they're the cause and the solution for their problems is religious reasons. Let's be honest, if you grew up in a Christian home, maybe it was a Catholic home, you know, Jesus was the main focus. Jesus is the end-all, be-all. I'm going to pray to him, and he's going to be the solution for my problems. Well, what about God? What if it's a different religion? Maybe it's the universe, whatever that looks like for you. Your truth is going to be your truth. So we're not going to get into an argument about beliefs, but if you believe in a higher power, well, aren't we supposed to believe in this higher power to be the solution to our problems? Absolutely, of course. That's the whole reason that we have these beliefs. Why else would God, Jesus, Muhammad, whoever you believe in, why else would they have this concept out there? So if we're talking about Jesus, you know, God created us in his own image. Why are we even called Christians? Christians means little Christ. Why else was the Holy Spirit able to come upon us after Jesus' death? The whole point of that is so we can do exactly this concept. We were created to be the solution to our own problems. Not saying to do it all yourself. If you believe in a higher power, if you want to pray and get that power, that's, to me, the Holy Spirit working through me is when I recognize and diagnose and then prescribe a solution to my problems. That's how this thing works. So if you guys are familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, he's the famed Rich Dad, Poor Dad author. He says, our brains shut off when I say, I can't afford this. But when we say, how can I afford this, we end up finding the solution because that gets our brain just diagnosing the problem and prescribing a solution for the problem. Same concept's true. If I'm the cause and the solution for my problems, I'm going to know exactly what to do. It might take some time, it might take a little bit of effort, but once you beat that force of average, you're going to be able to find the solution for your problems. Again, the ego is huge. It does not want to hear that it's wrong. So first, by taking responsibility for yourself and hearing, I'm the cause of my problems, well, that does suck. But if you know that you're the solution for your problems, that gives you power to overcome that. So I provide that training to my clients. They'll tell you that they've developed a new self-reflection muscle and mentally stronger than ever. So if you're an athlete, you know, have you ever wanted to perform better and just saw that there's something holding you back? Are you a business owner that wants to thrive rather than just survive? Are you an average, ordinary person that's looking for more? You have the solution. Sometimes you just need a non-biased, honest mirror to reflect back to you that you're the solution. How can you be the solution? They're your problems. You're the expert in your life. Trust me, if you look hard enough, you will find the answers to be the solution in your life. Sometimes you just need to ask somebody for advice rather than a listening ear, but usually somebody just needs that listening ear. So if you like this podcast, do me a favor, like it, share it, give me 5 stars on iTunes. There's someone out there that's looking to hear exactly these words but won't take your advice, but would rather take the advice of a 5-star iTunes podcast. If you're one of the many people out there who need a mirror in their life, get on efficiencybook.com. schedule a free 15-minute session where I can answer your questions, be that listening ear, and if you ask, of course, I'll give you advice. Remember, you're the cause to all of your problems, therefore, you're the solution to all of your problems. You're the expert in your own life, and it's okay. If you need a coach to be a mirror to help you see the true power, that's okay too. This is Wade Weedo with Efficiency, helping you gain more time, more energy with these simple and effective daily tips.
Efficiency.